Hello and welcome to Louise Singleton Creations. In today's video I'm going to be using my fabulous new mould housing kit from Let's Resin along with their silicone rubber to create a mould of a real amethyst cluster. So if you would like to see how I tackled making a mould of something which didn't have a flat base, stay tuned and enjoy the video. Today I'm going to be making a mould of this beautiful chunk of amethyst which I borrowed from my mum's house. I really loved it and really wanted to have a mould of it, but as you can see it's got an uneven bottom, and if you've made moulds before, what you really need is something with a flat bottom, and that will make life really easy. But I'm not one for making life easy, and I'm also not one to be stopped by something like that. I always manage to find a solution. So today I'm going to be using my new mould housing kit from Let's Resin, which I was so excited to use because it makes moulding so much easier because you don't have to make your own barrier. This barrier is ready made for you and you can make it into a rectangle, large or small, or a square, large or small. And all the pieces just clip together. You might have noticed that the barrier which I'm putting together isn't as tall as the thing I'm going to be moulding, but don't worry, I'm going to show you in a minute what I'm going to do about that, because I don't actually want to make my mould the full height of that piece of amethyst, so it's not really a problem. Yeah, I've got a crafty trick up my sleeve. Right then, so what I'm going to do is use clay. It doesn't matter whether it's air dry clay or normal clay, you know, any clay will do. And I'm just going to squidge it into like a long sausage. do you like all my technical terminology? Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm squidging it into a long sausage and wrapping it around and squeezing it all down. Excuse my head, there's nothing I can do about that. I could edit my head out and then there'll be nothing left. So yeah, I'm squidging it all the way around so that when I put the silicone in, it's not going to leak underneath. Because if I just put that piece of amethyst flat on the surface, the silicone would all go underneath because it's not flat, is it? So this seals the edges and brings up the level for the barrier to go onto. And yeah, that was my plan, and we'll see what happens. The finished result won't have a nice even finish when I get my finished mould. The top of it will be a little bit lumpy and bumpy, but I don't really care about that because it's only for my own use. It's not like I'm going to be selling my mould or anything. And so, yeah, we'll see if it works. So once I'd finished messing around with it and faffing to get it to the right level to put the barrier on, I put the barrier on and squeezed the clay from underneath upwards to make sure that there was a good seal all the way around between the clay and the barrier. So you can't really tell from the camera angle I've got. That's all I'm doing at the moment, just squeezing it upwards and forming a good seal underneath. So as I said before, this mould housing is from Let's Resin, and also the silicone which I'm going to be using, that's from Let's Resin too, and I will leave links and discount code in the video description. Okay, it's time to mix the liquid silicone from Let's Resin. The kit comes with 2 bottles, part A and part B, and you need to measure equal amounts by weight, which I was really happy about because I don't like measuring by volume. Weight is much more accurate. This silicone is a platinum cured silicone, which is also known as addition cured silicone. It's safe, non-toxic and odour-free. It's got low viscosity and it's self-degassing. It's got high tensile strength and it's also tear-resistant with excellent flexibility. Okay, let's get measuring the silicone. I'm guessing the weight because I couldn't do what I would have normally done, and what Let's Resin recommend in their manual also. What they recommend is to pour sand into the cavity, then weigh the sand, and that's the weight that you will need. I couldn't do that because the sand would have stuck to the clay at the bottom. So I'm guessing, and I wasn't far off. I did need to mix a little bit more afterwards. I did 200 grams of part A and 200 grams of part B, and I mixed it for about 2 minutes. Once it was thoroughly mixed, I poured it in, and what I like to do is find a spot where I'm going to start and keep pouring in that part and just let the silicone find its own way all throughout the cavity, and that way you avoid getting air pockets trapped in there. As I said before, I didn't quite have enough, so I mixed up another 60 grams of part A and 60 grams of part B and poured that in the top, and then it was spot on. It's always best to mix not quite enough than too much because you don't like to waste things. You can demould this silicone after about 8 hours, but you're supposed to wait 24 hours before actually using your mould. So I just waited 24 hours before I demoulded it, and then I used it straight away. Okay, it's 24 hours later and it's time to remove the mould housing, and it was so easy. First of all, I just removed the clay. And then it was just a case of removing all the clips and taking off each individual piece of the housing. It had all got a little bit mucky from the clay, so after I removed all the pieces, I gave it all a really good wash and it was just like new again. I just loved working with these so much. It makes life so much easier. And yeah, we all need a little bit of that. As you can see, some of the silicone had seeped underneath the housing, between the housing and the clay just a little bit. It wasn't a problem, it just needed snipping with scissors to tidy it up. And yeah, here you can see how easily the amethyst came out. If you were using the housing in the normal way, the way it's designed for, you would use the double-sided tape that comes with it and tape it to the flat surface that you would be using, and the silicone wouldn't leak like it did for me. But yeah, it was hardly anything, as you can see, and it just snips off. After I'd finished filming this part, I went and gave it a good wash with some warm soapy water just to get rid of that clay residue, and also there were some little bits that had stuck onto the mould that were on the actual amethyst in the first place. When you know, moulding something that's natural, there will be little bits of grit or dirt or whatever that is attached to it, and that will probably come off into the mould, but that's not a problem. It usually washes away, and if it doesn't wash away, it will just probably stay there forever and just become part of the impression of, you know, on whatever you're making, because it's something natural, and it doesn't matter really, does it? Because I was pouring onto that clay, which was very bumpy, the impression from the silicone is there from that bumpy clay. And so just to tidy it up a little bit, I just got my craft knife and just trimmed away some of the bigger lumps and bumps just to neaten it up a little bit. You'll never get it completely smooth doing it the way I've done this today, but you know, we like to neaten things up a little bit. In next week's video, I'm going to be showing you what I made using my resin crystal. And so I'm not showing you the part where I added the resin today. I'm saving that for next week's video. And so instead, I'm just going to show you the results of pouring the resin into my brand new mould. Okay, let's see how easily it comes out. Oh, we've missed it. It was so quick. It just comes out so easily. There was no mould release or anything in there. That silicone just removes as easy as anything, and here's the results. as it catches the light, you will see that the silicone picks up every little bit of detail from the texture of your thing that you're moulding. And yeah, you can see all the natural imperfections, we could call them, in the crystals, which isn't necessarily what you would want, but you know, it's a good thing that the silicone picks up so much detail. What I actually did afterwards was give it a spray of Krylon triple thick varnish, just because of the slightly cloudy bits that were picked up from that texture in the original piece, if you know what I mean. So in conclusion, would I recommend Let's Resin silicone rubber and the mould housing? Oh yes, absolutely. 10 out of 10 from me. I can't think of anything that I didn't like about it. And as we've come to the end of the video, I will give you a sneaky peek of what's to come next week using my resin amethyst. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you again next week. Bye for now.